Finishers and factions catching action. Finishers and factions.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to this week's episode of Finishers and Factions, where it was live from Dallas, Texas.
And on this episode, we were with Monday Night Raw, as Rich has just said, in Dallas, Texas, at the American Airlines Center, which I believe was sold out on this occasion.
It was a full 15,572 fans in attendance this evening. For one of the many times in history this wonderful location has held the Monday Night Raw, one of 27 times, along with two WrestleManias, WrestleMania 32 and WrestleMania 38.
So what you're telling me is that Dallas, Texas has had WrestleMania twice in less than 10 years, and they've never brought it over to the UK.
Mm-hmm. But Saudi Arabia might get it before us, so it's fine. It's fine. We get Elimination Chamber. It's we'll have to make do. You know, we're the bigger fans, but we'll stick to Elimination Chamber. God damn it.
Yeah, I know, right? But back to this Monday Night Raw. Before we'd even got to a promo or a match, we were treated to a VT from before the event even started, where Rhea Bloody Ripley was being attacked by Nia Jax before the show even started, and Rhea Ripley got hit by looked like she'd been hit by a train. In fairness,
I mean,
is
Nia Jax isn't anything short of a train, and when you've got something that big and that fast coming at you, it's gonna feel like you've been hit by a train. She got pincered straight into a set of barricades as well, so there was nowhere for her to go.
No, definitely not, and nothing about what she was hit by, or what she went into is gonna be forgiving in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, there's nothing about Nia Jax that's forgiving. I will assure you of that one. I'm sure after that occasion, Rhea probably would too.
Yeah, this is it. We had one other thing to note before we get into anything else to do with the show. We had a small change to the normal running order, or the normal running team. Ordinarily on commentary, we'd have Michael Cole and Pat McAfee, but this week Wade Barrett subbed in for Pat McAfee because I believe he was doing something to do with the NFL.
Oh, he was off doing something with the ESPN Game Day, I believe, for the college football. Not 100% sure. I wasn't paying much attention to that specific part, to which game he was working on, but I know he was working with the college football for this weekend.
No, but just thought I'd mention that while we were getting into it. But
Wade Barrett back on Raw, though.
Wade Barrett back on Raw, and I mean they spent him and Michael Cole spent the entire night just sort of bickering between the two of them, which honestly sort of reminded me a little bit of when Jerry the King Lawler and Michael Cole used to do commentary together, to be quite honest. But
made it more enjoyable.
It did. It offered some contention even between matches. So one thing Wade Barrett didn't approve of straight from the off was Michael Cole's reaction to our first promo, which was for main event Jey Uso.
What an entry that guy had this week. I mean, he came in from the crowd again, and the entire crowd. I mean, I don't think there was that many people that weren't getting involved. Even Michael Cole himself was getting involved with the yeeting. The entire crowd was moving. It was incredible entry.
There are seldom few superstars that have managed to elicit that kind of reaction. I mean, like superstar legends like John Cena, The Rock, John Cena was always hailed for being a polarizing superstar. He was Marmite. You either loved him or hated him. The Rock is universally loved, and I'd go as far as to say I don't even think The Rock elicits the kind of energy and reaction that Jey Uso seems to elicit every time he steps in an arena.
I don't think there would have been a bigger pop if they'd have managed to get Undertaker to do a Taker Rooney than what happens when main event Jey Uso hits that his music hit, it is such a pop
Yeah.
every time. But
100%.
his promo was shorter than his entrance, and that was slightly annoying. Like, I thought they give him an opportunity, they put the mic in his hand, and they've given him an opportunity to say whatever it is that he wants to say. And he don't really get that time, does he?
I will go a step further with that and say that I think it's who he's in this promo with that sort of has that effect for it. Because Jey Uso comes out, starts pretty much ahead of his main event. It's Saturday night main event match this coming Saturday with Gunther for the World Heavyweight Championship, and I mean, we may as well start calling Gunther Joe Hendry at this point, because say his name and he will appear.
And they're both holding gold.
And he, well, yeah, I mean, while we're mentioning it, I haven't seen any of Genesis, but I've seen all of the, I've seen pretty much all of the match results, and it sounds like it was a phenomenal night.
Well,
But
there is a link to Raw with that TNA pay-per-view. After Joe Hendry stripped Nick Nemeth, formerly known as Dolph Ziggler, of the TNA title, he called out John Cena, which was an interesting one. So we'll see what happens with that one in a couple of episodes down the line, I'm sure.
yeah, that would be one hell of a match if we get it. Is Hendry versus Cena? Yeah,
That would be a pop, wouldn't it?
an ideal.
I'd stay up late for that one. Booking the day off work, staying up late, pizza.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, Gunther came out in. This was sort of very similar to their last promo that they cut last week on Raw. It seemed sort of very respectful, at least to begin with. All of Gunther's sort of jabs were almost like underhanded compliments to a certain degree. They were trying to keep it very sort of civilized, and I mean, Gunther criticised Jey for his entrance, demeanour, and just genuine lack of follow through, as well as saying that Jimmy might actually be the more successful Uso, which is insane. I don't know how you can compare the two. I mean, Jimmy's very talented, but would never go as far as to say he's the more successful of the two.
It's funny how you brought Rock up at the start of this conversation, because Gunther actually has a cheeky little Rock quotation in this promo as well. At one point in the promo, he says to Jey, he goes, what are you going to say? And he just kind of looks at him and says, it doesn't matter what you say. People don't, Gunther doesn't believe in Jey, and he believes the WWE universe don't either. I mean, that wasn't met with the greatest reception from the universe. I personally had a few choice words to say about it myself. Those I can't repeat on the podcast, even though we are an explicit-based one. I think that might be a little bit too explicit for the audience we're aiming towards.
Yeah, let's keep it at least semi-clean. But yeah, I mean, Gunther goes even a step further in when he's talking about how much he goes out and helps out everybody around him. Sami Zayn, Roman Reigns, all of these other names that Jey will rush to their defense for. And just goes to call him, and just calls him a useful idiot. That is a word that seems to be thrown around a lot in WWE programming. Is idiot. I'm hearing that a lot at the moment, and
it's a really poor choice of words as well. There are so many better words in the English vocabulary and the Spanish as well, that they could choose to use, but don't. And I don't know about you, but I was hoping with this Netflix era we were going to go progress a little bit more from the sort of the PG style stuff, where we get a little bit more hardcore action, a little bit more on the language, a little bit more on the more sort of like what I'd refer to as like old school proper wrestling promos, rather than some of the stuff we've been treated to in the last sort of 3 to 4 years.
I think they're in a process of sort of feeling out where the boundaries are, because they are starting to bleed it in a little bit. but it's not to the level that we would expect, or not to the level that we grew up with, at least. Um, but this promo basically, I mean, Jay does get his own back here, and it is phenomenal that he gets his own back in this way, just because um, he points out that while Gunther has had two very successful title reigns, it's a case that
Jay's
he's never
done
main
something.
evented WrestleMania, which is something that Jey Uso can always hold over his head.
Oh, and he was nowhere near as over then as he is now.
No.
Yeah, so
But yeah, one thing that Jey Uso will always have over Gunther, and it seemed to really push Gunther's buttons, is that Gunther's never, as much as a fighting champion and a successful champion that Gunther has been, he's never actually main evented a WrestleMania in the few years that he's been with the company,
no.
which is actually sort of surprising.
But then there are so many talented superstars on the roster and not enough space over the WrestleMania weekend to be able to get everyone on. You know, there's so many that deserve slots that have had great storylines that haven't gone to Mania, but they've gone to the Raw after, or they've kind of been pushed a bit further down. You've only got a certain amount of space, I suppose. You can't have everyone.
No, this is true, but yeah, and just the last sort of closing thought on this promo as it goes is that you might not have spotted it, but I certainly did. Jay got some colour on him after the fight that broke out with this. Did you happen to see that at all? Or
Didn't, but he did get hit with a title belt though, didn't he? So surely that will cause a little bit of an injury to the face.
yeah, this is true. This is true.
Gunther's not the smallest guy either, so if he's hitting you with that, it's going to hurt.
Yeah, this is it. Which was actually really surprising, and I mean, Gunther is actually quite famous for how hard he does his sort of cross-body chop. He's actually pretty well famous for it, and I saw an interview with Gunther recently, where somebody asks him like, "Have you ever been chopped as hard as you chop others?" And he actually says, "Yeah, there was one guy that I can think of who chops probably harder than me." And that man is actually on this card as well. It's Penta. Apparently, Penta chopped Gunther once and drew blood on one chop.
Oh. I mean,
So that is one hell of a crossbody chop for.
if that is the case, I feel sorry for Pete Dunne.
Yes, but we will get to that. We will get to that.
I think Jay got is up and coming in that little sort of exchange of moves at the end as well. Like, yes, he got a bit of a beatdown laid on him, but he hit Gunther with a hell of a super kick to send him out of the ring and to leave his belt on the middle of the ring. Like, Jay could have held that hostage for a while. You know, it could have been interesting.
Well, you can't hold it hostage for too long, as we've only got to wait until Saturday for them to meet.
One-on-one at
but
Saturday night main event.
Yeah, that's San Antonio, Texas. So we're gonna move swiftly on to the next promo, which was the New Day.
And legendary Hall of Famer JBL was backstage as well, who was their special commentator for their match against Rey Mysterio a little bit later on in the evening, or for Kofi's match against Rey Mysterio a little bit later on in the evening.
So yeah, this really confused me because obviously last week we were told New Day was returning to in-ring action. I assumed this meant that they were going in as a tag team.
Yeah, which is why I was really confused myself when they both came out, and I was expecting, all right, okay, so you've got Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston here, and then it was like, oh, we've got Rey Mysterio coming out, so it's like, right, cool, who's going to be the fourth person? And then, it was at that moment you kind of realised, oh, wait a minute, it is just Kofi and it's just Rey Mysterio.
Yeah, it wasn't until like Xavier Woods stayed on the outside of the ring and all of that lot that because even when it was just Ray that came out, um, I genuinely thought it was going to end up being some kind of handicap match or something like
That was
that,
an
like
option, it could have been.
like a tag on one, which you very rarely see now. It's not a match type they like to use. Um, but yeah, no, that with that promo, they New Day end up bribing or trying to bribe JBL with $2 to try and be more sympathetic to their side, and
Yeah, $2 ain't gonna get you
JBL in
far.
his own, not with JBL, not with JBL, but JBL ends up almost seemingly to be on Big E's side. But he does explain later on when in the match that actually I, I'm rooting for them, but the way he put it across was just it came across all wrong. So I can sort of understand Kofi and Xavier being quite upset by it. While we're talking about it, this bleeds into the first match of the night, which was Rey Mysterio versus Kofi Kingston.
So
And
we've got Ray's entry to start off with. This really is starting to bug me. We say this every week, and we think we're both having the same opinion here. They bring a superstar out to the ring, and then they cut to a promo, or they cut to a VT, and it makes life very difficult, especially for us taking notes. But I can imagine to watch it as well. Sometimes it's like, right, cool, we're getting into a fight. No, I might as well go make a cup of tea. We've still got a VT to do, and then possibly a promo, and then we actually get into the fight.
yeah, this is it. I mean, we've been doing this. We've been doing this podcast now for
This is the third
going
week.
on third week, and we still haven't I still haven't learnt the pattern of how this works, how they're going to do it. Because just when I think, oh, this is when they're going to do it again, it turns out, oh no, this isn't how they're going to do it again. It's actually going to go. It's actually going to go slightly differently.
Maybe we should email
Yeah.
the production team and ask them for their setup, so we can go like, right, this is how the episode is built. We can now use that.
Yeah, I think we might have to
Maybe.
grow our grow our viewer base or listener base in this case a little bit more before we can do that. But yeah, was it? I've got down here. I can't remember if it was a VT, but I don't think it was an actual promo as such.
You had
That
the
interrupted
WrestleMania.
came in between. Do you have notes on that?
Yeah, so you had the WrestleMania in Las Vegas VT, which was, it wasn't particularly long, just kind of showcasing there's still got tickets left for WrestleMania and where it is, which is Las Vegas, Nevada this year. And then we kind of had JBL's entrance as a Hall of Famer in his home state of Texas for the commentary. There was a classic line that I heard in here that I really thought was quite funny, was asking where the limo with the horns was. And he claimed it was still in the Briscoe's brothers body shop, so I wonder if that's where Kofi's $2 were going to start off with. But yeah, you never know. But that was nice to see they brought that storyline back, just as a reference piece at least. Yeah, so the VT in this case was basically, it was just a WrestleMania as in Las Vegas, Nevada. There's still some tickets available, and a visual package of the arena and what was going on there. Followed up by JBL's entrance as a Hall of Famer in his home state of Texas, to do a guest commentary slot on the match between Ray and Kofi. I did find it interesting in this section. Michael Cole asked him where his limo was, and he responded that it was in the Briscoe brothers shop being repaired. I'm guessing that was after John Cena did a number on it with was it Batista and a baseball bat?
Do you know? I'm not 100%. I'm not 100% sure why it would have been in the shop. He did make a a bit of a joke about the fact that it would be it's all down to inflation or something along those
I wonder if
lines.
that's where
Somehow I just don't
Kofi's
feel.
$2 are going to go straight in Eric
Well, no,
Briscoe's pocket.
because Kofi takes the $2 back
He does. That's right. When
before
they
the match starts. But the one thing that that shocked me about it is obviously normally when you've got a superstar that's bought out as the hometown hero, they're normally bought out to quite a bit of crowd reaction. And I was actually quite surprised as to how little crowd reaction we had for JBL coming out. It was actually quite underwhelming, and I can imagine if this affected JBL at all. I can't imagine it did, but it would have been like quite disheartening for him.
Especially when you see the pop that Rey Mysterio got in his hometown and the pop that Bailey got in hers too. You know, they were massive, massive pops. And yeah, JBL
The only
wasn't.
the only thing that you can sort of console him with is the fact that both Bailey and Rey Mysterio got those pops for being active superstars, which JBL, while he still wrestles, he does still make appearances in the indies. He is not an active WWE superstar. He just holds a Hall of Famer contract. So that is the only real consolation that you can give to JBL to such a lackluster reception in his own hometown. I don't know. Maybe it was the arena or something like that. It just felt like a quite an apathetic reception for him moving forward. But yes, we had JBL come out, who was guest commentator for the Rey Mysterio and Kofi Kingston match. I've got a couple of bits and pieces for this match, but I mean, two high flyers, high energy. Even though they last faced each other, I think they mentioned it was something like 16 years ago or something like that. It was an insanely long time since the last time these guys faced each other in a one-on-one matchup. But yeah, I mean, two veteran high flyers, and
On
the
paper,
New
it's a
Day at
great
least.
match.
Sorry?
On paper, it's a great match. Like if there was such thing as fantasy wrestling, on paper that would be a absolutely phenomenal match. You know,
There is such a thing as fantasy wrestling. It's called the WWE 2K games. They're generally all pretty much the same, but
we
it
spent
works out
enough
quite well
time
that you can.
kicking Enzo Amore in the nuts on those many years ago.
Yes, drinking copious amounts of alcohol, if I remember correctly. Um, but yeah, what did I get here? So Mysterio really wasn't taking any shit in this. I mean, Kofi was basically running typical heel maneuvers, trying to keep out of Ray's way as much as possible. And I actually got down here a bit of a miss move by I'm not going to call it a botch because it's the one thing that if you ever listen to any professional wrestlers talk about social media influencers who talk about wrestling, the one thing they hate, the one word they will hate to hear is the word botch, because they're very much of the opinion of, well, if you think you can do it better, go right ahead.
Yeah.
And I am not going to sit here and say I can do anything that Kofi Kingston or Rey Mysterio have done, will do, or can do any better than the men themselves. So I avoid the word botch if I can at all. But yeah, we had a section where Xavier Woods was actually ejected from ringside, and Rey Mysterio very much sort of steals a win.
It was a nice little exchange with a sunset flip off the senton.
Oh, 100%. I mean, lots of lot from what I can remember of Monday Night Raw, Sunset Flips were
It was the
very
move of the
much the
week.
order of the day.
Yeah, it was the move of the week. There was a few hit in different matches, some later on as well.
Yeah, this is it. But yeah, after Rey Mysterio steals a win, New Day set after Mysterio, obviously not happy at the fact that they've been shown up again. Um, and we have
The LWO came running out to save Ray's ass, which was nice.
they certainly did. They certainly did. It was nice to know that uh, somebody had Ray's back basically because yeah, I
Cody
think
had
this
to
could have
have it
ended
last
quite
week
badly.
when Kevin Owens tried to hit him with that pile driver. So it's the second
Yeah,
week in a
this is
row
it.
that he's won a match. He's been beaten down for it, and someone's had to come out and rescue him.
Something that we don't see very often is how the New Day behaved next. So they did the typical heel maneuver. They ran off into they ran off into the arena, um, sort of what scarpering off like a couple of scalded
This
cats.
flank out through the crowd to come back in to attack LWO from behind was pure genius.
Oh, 100%.
Like,
It's a wonder we don't see anything like this at all.
it caught me
They
off
sort of
guard.
had the
You saw the camera angle
they
and them
sort
running off, and it was like, right, they've gone. It's time to, pick him up, get him back out the back. That he's done. And then, yeah,
yeah.
boom, straight away. You're like, what? I was going to make a cup of tea at that time. So, oh crap, I've got to run back in and write about that.
Yeah, I took the note of they were sort of very much attacking like a pack of hyenas because hyenas when they are attempting to attack something of a larger prey, they will use an attack and retreat sort of format and go in, attack, do some damage, retreat before they can sustain damage themselves. And this seemed to be something that the New Day were trying to put to use in ring, which yeah,
I've
100% complete genius move and not something we see every day in WWE.
got something you don't see every day, just to throw this in there, completely out of context. My kitten's just walked in through the bedroom door with a bog roll in between her paws. Like, that absolute nut job has just walked in with a bog roll.
Okay,
Completely random. Yeah,
very
kittens.
much so.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys. I just couldn't. I had to share that one with you.
No, fair enough.
No, I think after the beatdown and stuff at the end and the LWO coming out, it has possibly set up something between New Day versus LWO. But
I
it
think
leaves me
I,
thinking that New Day is still a man short. So are they going to recruit or are they going to? I'm not sure what's going to happen, but it's going to be an interesting one, I think.
they've already burned the bridge with Big E, so even because I've seen something today itself from a fellow creator on TikTok who theorised that potentially Big E could end up making a return for the Rumble. It's not outside the realms of possibility. It wouldn't be the first time that we've been told that a superstar has an almost life-threatening neck injury that keeps them out of the ring for all eternity, for them then to come back. Just thinking of a few, I believe Christian had a fatal neck injury, who's now competing in AEW.
Edge.
Edge, exactly the same, now competing in AEW. I mean, to listen to Kurt Angle go on and on at his the Olympic gold medal that he won with a broken freaking neck.
Stone Cold.
Yeah,
Another one.
that was more thanks to Edge, in fairness.
Either way, winning with a broken neck,
Oh, 100%. But yeah, so it's not outside the realms of possibility for that to happen, in my view. I don't think it will, but it's a bit of fun to theorise about.
Oh yeah, definitely. Always a bit of fun to theorise.
But
Um,
again, keep things moving forward.
we went on to a Penta recap. Um, up next, kind of setting up for those match a little bit later in the day for Pete Dunne again. Um, kind of, a little bit more about how he's the worst kept secret in the business for that period of time. Um, a little bit of his debut against Chad Gable last week, and actually, to be fair, we both agreed it was a half decent match. The promo afterwards, we both struggled with the language barrier and his, for him being sort of mainly a Spanish speaking um, wrestler, where I don't speak Spanish. I don't know about you, but
No, I don't either. But it was more of a case that I don't think you necessarily needed to be able to hear what it was that Penta was talking about for it to make
make
at
the
least some
effect.
kind of sense.
We went from that
Um,
into another backstage section as well.
yeah, so we had a backstage interview with Bailey next, I believe. All about a match with Nia Jax later on in the night. She's also been the second woman, I believe, to declare herself for the Royal Rumble on February 1st. Um, and as soon as Bailey had pretty much announced herself for the Rumble, who should show up but the Samoan steam train herself, Nia Jax. Obviously, fresh off the attack of Rhea Ripley earlier in the night, feeling pretty bloody pleased with herself, I would imagine.
Uh, I completely missed that bit out of my notes. Apparently,
Oh right, okay.
I had.
Yeah, basically just some very not over the top sort of heat building for their match later on in the night, realistically. So not a
I,
massive amount missed there, but
I, ha-
still pretty
I had that down before New Day um, came out.
possible that that happened between
Is that when they were
Rey
talking about the
Mysterio
pro
and
bull riding guys?
possibly, yeah.
Yeah, and that's I've got that in that section there.
So this is again, this is what happens when WWE programming decide to stick promos in the middle of match entrances.
Yeah, so the
Um,
one I had was with Chad Gable backstage with American Alpha, and the fact that he still had a problem losing to Luchadors. Now he'd lost to Penta, he'd lost to Dragon Lee, he'd lost to Rey Mysterio, and that he was going to go and talk to Dom about how to deal with Luchadors, which I thought was fucking idiotic because Dom wouldn't know a Luchador, how to deal with one if it came up and slapped him in the face. Actually, I'm pretty sure his dad did slap him in the face a few times when he fought them.
well, yeah. I mean, given half an opportunity, I'm pretty sure everybody had slapped Dom in the face.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I had that one down as my next running order. As my next running order, the rest of American Made are well, all of American Made are basically gold hunting. They are going after any and every title they can possibly get their American Made mitts on. Which I mean, realistically, most of the locker room is doing that as well. So
Everyone's going for
yeah,
gold. It's Mania season. Everyone wants to try and get to that main event of WrestleMania, and you've got more chance of doing that if you've got gold in your hands.
oh, 100%.
Unless, of course, you're
Gold in your
Kevin
hands,
Owens,
gold around your
because
waist.
gold in your hands means fuck all if you're Kevin Owens.
Well, yeah, this is true, but
We digress.
it still doesn't seem to take the hint with that one, unfortunately. Um,
We
anyway,
saw a little bit next from Sami Zayn backstage as well. He's making an appearance from SmackDown to come to Raw for the night. And then we
yeah,
had another little sort of not I want to say it was backstage. It wasn't. It was more up in the crowd with
so,
Karrion Kross and Scarlett, wasn't it?
so I have lovingly started over referring to these types of promos as arena view promos or arena side promos, just
Yep.
because they take place in the crowd and it's basically just an interview segment.
Really good section though. I've been quite enjoying having them up there. It's different. It's better than your standard in the back sort of area.
Oh, 100%.
Be
But
interesting to see the
before we
first
actually
brawl we have up there.
before we talk about what the actual content of the uh, before we talk about the actual content of the promo itself, which was a decent promo, don't get me wrong, I feel remiss if I didn't mention about what the hell Scarlett was wearing in that. I felt like I had to pay a premium just to watch that promo. I'm not going to lie.
I mean, you're probably paying for a few other premiums anyway, so what's an extra direct debit every month?
Depends how much they're charging me. But yeah, I got very much. It very much felt like with all the black, the leather, the chains, it felt very sort of dominatrixy, which I'm not sure if that was the point, but
It got you
yeah.
talking
Other than
about it,
that,
so it kind of worked, I suppose.
yeah. But yeah, we had well, it didn't have any words at all from Scarlett herself. It was all Karrion Kross is doing, and yeah, he's basically named a couple of quite high profile next targets
Yeah, Seth Rollins,
for his
CM
little
Punk,
regime.
and Sami Zayn in that list. So
So Sami Zayn was the only one that didn't seem to really fit that picture. Obviously, Seth Rollins, CM Punk, both very
I
much
was
main event
expecting him to say
superstars.
Drew, to be fair, and then kind of hoping some point he'd interrupt on this love triangle between the three, turn it into a fatal four-way somewhere just for a laugh. But yeah, I'm not quite sure where it's heading, especially with Sami Zayn. But there was one upside to this promo: no Miz. Thank God.
No, no,
Wasn't there at all
no
this week.
Miz. No Miz at all in Raw this week. Which, if you're a Miz fan, is a disappointment. If you're not a Miz fan, it's a fucking relief.
Wrestling in
But
fucking disguise, I tell you.
100%. At least he weren't wrestling. But yeah, I mean, I feel like WWE have potentially left themselves at a bit of a loose end. I think the move to move the Wyatt Six over to SmackDown was not a planned move. I just don't see it being a planned move in any way, shape, or form. I feel like potentially there was some scheduling conflicts or something along those lines for the Wyatt Six to have been moved to Friday nights. Hence the interruption to the program between Karrion Kross and the Wyatt Six, but nothing has sort of officially come out. It's just a suspicion, but it seems to make sense to me at least why they would why they're now seemingly trying to inject Karrion Kross somewhere else, almost as they do something similar with severed limbs sometimes, is that they will attach it to a different part of the body to maintain blood flow until they can get the part of the body it belongs to into a place where it can actually be transplanted, reattached back on. And that's what I feel like they're doing with Karrion Kross and Scarlett at the moment, is that they
Trying
don't
to
really have a clear
transplant him into
direction.
someone else's feud.
Yeah, a little bit. It just it the fact that two of the people that they've named are CM Punk and Seth Rollins, both of which are involved in a bit of a three-way mega feud, which seems to have been going on for a hell of a long time. Maybe they're setting up for what happens after the feud ends. Maybe they're doing what I've suggested. Who knows? Well,
I
somebody
think
will know.
they brought Sammy into that list with Karrion Kross, which was nice because that led quite nicely into Sami Zayn doing an in-ring promo. Well, no, it brought Sami Zayn out to the ring, and then they brought us a merch VT, which was beautiful. You can check out all their merch at the appropriate website, which is www.shop.com. and then they threw some past highlights in from previous Raws and other house shows in that specific building. And the one they exampled us was from June 1st, 2010, where Wade Barrett faced David Otunga in an NXT, I believe it was a main event, but I'm not 100% sure.
So that was when they pointed out that Wade Barrett in that very building was the season 1 winner of NXT when it was more of a reality show than a wrestling promotion, which is what it seems to have evolved into. Because he was in the final 2 with David Otunga, and yeah, Wade Barrett came out of that. As the winner. Then they slung a bunch of the NXT developmental guys together, forming the Nexus, which later became a big part of CM Punk's character, starting off as a bit of a, I think it started off as a bit of a feud, to which he then became their leader as such. And yeah, I seem to remember one year the Punk-led Nexus was holding pretty much the WWE ring hostage on Royal Rumble night, because they'd all managed to
Get themselves
all
in the ring at the
managed
same
to
time, weren't they?
yeah, pretty much. So they were playing the numbers game against anybody that happened to come into the ring against them. And
Sensible
it
way to do
meant
it.
so very. It is certainly, but there's no friends in the Rumble, as we are consistently told, because it doesn't always work out that way. I think from there, from those little VTs, I think we went into the in-ring promo for Sami Zayn, the ultimate underdog, the eternally bullied superstar, it would seem.
With the
Um,
greatest entry music in the world. Well,
I
I
think that
love.
may be subjective.
It is subjective. It is. I think his entry music is brilliant. It's definitely a very big hype fest, and we got to listen to the crowd singing it back at him in the ring as
Yeah,
well, which is it's nice. You know,
that
it's one of those. It gives him a bit of a personal touch with the crowd, and the crowd get a bit of one time with the wrestler. I suppose it's a great little touch to these.
that took me off guard. I will be honest. I didn't think Sami Zayn was that over, but apparently I was wrong. Not a bad thing. I'm glad to see he's actually getting he's gaining some popularity with the fans, and
Well,
I'm hoping it sort of culminates into some real opportunities for him at some point.
he
But
didn't beat around the bush in
um,
his promo, and we're not going to beat around the bush here with what he said. And he pretty
no,
much jumped in and said, "Look, I've been and spoken to Adam Pearce, and I'm in the 2025 Royal Rumble, and you know Seth Rollins told me to stop helping everyone else and start help myself, and I started thinking about what I wanted." Goes on to say, you know, as a 14-year-old, you know, his dream was to be a pro wrestler, and you know, so many people get to live that dream, and some people don't. He's lucky enough to be in the upper echelon of that dream, where he's a WWE superstar, and you know, he believes he's one of the best, you know, top 10 in the company, and he's the only difference between him and them is he hasn't had a championship.
which is about right. But this was when we had one of the staple interrupting superstars at the moment. We had KO come out to the ring
Yeah,
with
this
his Winged
guy,
Eagle Championship slung over his shoulder.
he got booed pretty hard again, but he
Yeah, I
deserves it.
think
He's a bellend. Really getting fed up with
he
Kevin Owens right now.
he is. He's being. I can sort of understand from a character development perspective within this storyline why they are utilizing him the way they are, but I do feel like they're overexposing him quite a lot. And maybe this means that after this bit has been done for him, maybe he's going to be taking some time out. And they're basically just trying to get him the screen time to be able to tide him over with money, because while Kevin Owens has never been spoken about in the same conversation as John Cena and The Rock and all of these other high earning superstars over the years. It's a case that he does do really well, and he's a very frugal man. He's not silly in any way, shape, or form with his money. So we could just be seeing it being played as getting him some extra ring time so that he can go off and have some time to be with his family. So maybe, who knows? I could be making all of this up. But yeah, it's
This was a bit of a
this.
poor promo, I think. Um, between the two of them, there just didn't feel like there was a massive connection, which is weird considering the history they have. I mean, they've been wrestling with each other and against each other for the last 25 years. This whole promo
Kevin
for me
Owens
felt a bit stale.
Kevin Owens for me, it was. I think that's sort of how it was meant to come across, or at least that's how I perceived it, because Kevin Owens was coming out for his own self-interest. He was talking about the fact that him and Sammy have been best mates pretty much since their asses were the size of shirt buttons, and it's a case that
Where the fuck did you
um,
pull that from?
yeah, I don't know, but yeah, it's a case that they've been mates for 25 plus years. They've competed with each other, against each other. They've won championships together. They've won championships from one another. They basically came up through the ranks together, which
Didn't they win tag
it,
gold
it,
at WrestleMania together? So
they certainly did. But again, Kevin Owens wasn't out here to reminisce. Kevin Owens was out here, in my view, to sort of guilt Sammy into potentially assisting during the Kevin Owens Cody Rhodes ladder match scheduled to come up pretty soon at the Royal Rumble in Indianapolis on February 1st. And I'm sort of hoping at this point that Sammy just leaves Kevin to it. There's
yeah,
been a mate, and there's been a mate, and you've got to get to a point at some stage where mates are mates, and they'll always be there for you. But a true friend will tell you when you're fucking up. And I think it's gonna fall down to Sammy to basically say, Kevin, get your head out your ass, man. It's not. This isn't doing what you think it's going to be doing. Because he is living in La La Land at the minute.
well, he is. And then it was, at one point it was busy talking about them having this match at WrestleMania. If Sammy helps him beat Cody, and Kevin will help Sammy win the Rumble. But
We know
he's just
that
trying to get
we
someone to
know
acknowledge him as champion, and we know that everyone thinks he's a twat.
Yeah, we know from experience, and we can hope that sort of Sammy remembers that there have been many occasions where Kevin Owens in the past has made promises like this, and he just doesn't. He ends up reneging on them. He doesn't follow through, and Sami Zayn's the one that loses out. So we're hoping that he takes some of Seth Rollins' words to heart, starts thinking about himself rather than thinking about others, and makes a move for his own betterment rather than trying to help out somebody else. Because again, like Gunther did with Jey Uso, he's been told that he's been told that basically he's there for everybody else, but doesn't really take care of himself.
Yeah, and he's not had a lot of help from everyone that he's been looking after. Like he got a bit of assistance from Cody last week, but it's probably the only one who's really kind of had his back when he needed it. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, this is it. Moving on from that one, I've got on my list here. The next thing that we had was a backstage interview with the Irish brawler himself, Sheamus, holding Matt Shillelagh.
Yeah.
And yeah, basically, his entire promo was based around something that I think we've pointed out on this podcast previously, in previous episodes, is that Sheamus has had a absolutely phenomenal career. I mean, 6 months
Hall
after
of Fame
debuting,
level.
he points out, yeah. I mean, 6 months after debuting in the WWE, he'd won a heavyweight title from John Cena himself.
Which at that
Um,
time, no easy feat. This is John Cena's
no,
prime.
definitely not.
We point out here, this is
100%.
old Cena that we're seeing on his retirement tour. This is the guy who was there week in, week out as the face of the company, carrying it on their pretty impressive shoulders, as he likes to claim. Every day, or every week.
Yeah, this was it. But the only title he's never managed to hold, never managed to claim is that Intercontinental Champion, which is a championship that most of the superstars that reside within the Hall of Fame have definitely won a time or two in the past. I think if we went back through some of the wrestling superstars currently residing within the WWE Hall of Fame, we'd find a number of them who are former championship holders and have had probably not impressive reigns, but
There's some
still reigns with
guys
that
that
title.
aren't Hall of Famers that have had some pretty impressive IC title reigns as well. I hate to use his name too much because I'm not a big fan, but the Miz has done wonders with the IC title over the last sort of decade and bringing back sort of like some respect to the title.
Yeah, definitely. But it's not long before this promo too is interrupted. This time by Bron Breakker. I'm always of a bit of a mixed opinion of Bron Breakker. I mean, he's obviously done very well for himself, and do you know what? No disparagement to the guy. He's a bit of a Goldberg, in my
Ah,
opinion.
and he's just like his dad, can't cut a promo to save his ass.
Oh, 100%.
Cannot cut a promo
100%.
to save himself. Um,
But he
Raw
gives
could
it
have
a go
saved
in the
himself some time and not put this bit in with Bron Breakker, or if they were going to do this, they could have let them have a bit of a longer scuffle.
well, there was a shove, and I think that was about that was to the extent of what it was that we had with that one. It just
They could have let
didn't
that
seem
go a
to
little
go
bit
anywhere.
longer, or they could have not put that piece in. It wasn't. It didn't really change much for what's happening in what 3 days for Saturday Night Main Event.
Well, you say that beforehand. I don't think it was, and it's announced later on in the show, following on from this promo, that at Saturday Night Main Event, Bron Breakker will face Sheamus. As Bron Breakker is the current holder of the IC title, they've seen fit the WWE gods have seen fit to grant Sheamus an opportunity at getting at acquiring this elusive belt that seems to have eluded him for a majority of his career. Um, so yeah, we get that one pulled out the bag there for it. And again, I
Well,
have
you
in
say
my
that.
notes.
You say the WWE gods have gifted Sheamus. Sheamus actually beat Kaiser last week for this opportunity at Saturday Night Main Event. So that's kind of how he managed to get back there.
I don't think that was the point of that Ludwig Kaiser match. That was a personal brawl, if I remember correctly. That wasn't for an IC title shot because
I thought
in
the
the
winner
next
of that
promo,
got the next IC title shot, and then one of them was the number one contender for that.
no, I think that's just how it seems to have worked out.
That might be my bad then, guys.
Um, but
Yeah, no, the
I'm going back
next
through my notes from the
next
previous
promo
week.
was the Bailey VT about her history with Nia Jax. just kind of showcasing, building up a little bit more for that match later on in the evening. And then, yeah, you had the Ludwig Kaiser promo in the crowd with Jackie Redmond, where they had a bit of a recap about that match with Sheamus. And the Ludwig's fine with the fact that he lost the match, and he'll get there eventually. But at the moment, there's kind of no one for him to worry about, so he's not, too worried at all. And then he uses Sami Zayn as an example. He's busy with doing other things. Bron Breakker again, he's busy doing other bits and pieces. And the other name he mentioned was Penta. He said that Penta was going to be welcomed by him very soon, but wasn't going to give us any more details on that one.
Yeah, I think Ludwig Kaiser's attention has been drawn to Penta well and truly off, especially listening in on this interview, arena side with him. I believe as well we went from that interview into Raw's rather silent tribute to the WWE Hall of Famer Bob Uecker.
Yeah, I didn't realise it was a silent tribute. To be fair, I actually had to stop and make sure my headphones were working. I thought they'd become unplugged, and then I was trying to turn the volume around, and when it finished, and we started getting the recap on Rhea Ripley getting attacked by Nia Jax again, I almost blew my eardrums out of my arsehole. So that was definitely made this next match memorable for me, because my ears were ringing and my eyes were having to work twice as hard.
Yeah, so there was no sound whatsoever with it. I can sort of understand why you might have felt that it might have been like a technical fuck up. As it stands, this week was the first week that I've really seen Raw seems to have been manned by some of the guys from NXT this week, as far as the technical crew goes, because there were a number of little bits and pieces that just seemed to, I don't know, it sort of really took me out of the experience when I was watching, which these technical faults have a tendency to, which could just be a me thing. But yeah, not a great showing on Raw's technical behalf, because we had some problems, but
It wasn't the only
no problems
either. But
No.
I'll recap on that one a little bit later on. So we got to see that Roxanne Perez was at ringside, which was nice. I like seeing Roxanne Perez at ringside. It's definitely.
I just like seeing. I'm not gonna lie. I just like seeing Roxanne Perez.
I mean, between that and the
she's
fact that it's definitely building with Bayley. We've seen
100%.
all of them in the last. They've been at this is the fourth show in a row that we've seen both her and Bayley kind of either looking at each other naughtily or having some sort of interaction with each other. So this one's being pushed pretty hard as well, but not entirely
Yeah,
sure.
the commentary team are talking about this quite a lot, with especially more to do with Bayley than Roxanne Perez. But Bayley does definitely seem to be putting in some positively solid air miles with WWE at the moment, as she has appeared. She
did all three
appeared
shows last week, and she's been on Raw this week, so that's 4 in a row that she's appeared on.
Yeah, and we've got to figure that at some point burnout has got to set in at some stage. I mean, if you work that much without having a day off, I mean, there's being a role model and then there's being a mug, basically.
Don't get me wrong, she's probably
yeah.
been making a little bit of extra cheese just to pay off those Christmas debts, but we all like a bit of overtime in January, don't we?
Well, yes, I suppose, but yeah, we as you've alluded to, this went into a winning singles match as the second match of the night, which was Nia Jax versus Bayley.
We've got a few stats on this one at the beginning before the match kicked off as well. So I think in all the times that Nia Jax and Bayley have met, and I believe it was just one-on-one statistics, they fought 13 times in the last decade. And Nia's actually got the edge on this one on a 7-6 in their past meetings, which I wouldn't really have thought about it because of the the dominance that Bailey's had with titles and stuff, we don't tend to think that Nia would be overclassing her in that one. But Nia has also had some pretty dominant runs herself, so maybe not as memorable as Bailey's, I think, but she's definitely had them.
Well, Nia's always put across as a very dominant superstar in her own right. It's not something that we generally tend to shy away from. I think it just comes down a lot of the time to Nia Jax's size. She is an impressive. She is an intimidating figure.
But she's part of the Samoan dynasty as well, so she's got that heritage where they're all big people, and yet they're all
100%.
They probably hold more gold in that family than any other wrestling family in history.
Yeah, very much so. But yeah, I mean, going it straight into the match. I mean, Bailey seems to start really strong. I think a lot of superstars seem to subscribe to the thought that if you can rock Nia Jax
it's
early.
not always the case.
No, it's not, because what you have a tendency to do, what we seem to see is superstars basically knackering themselves out before Nia Jax has really got a head of steam going. Whereas sometimes maybe the best approach.
Well, after the first sort of like 5-10 minutes, you could see that Bailey and her work rate the last week had taken a slight toll. And as with every Nia match as well, you've kind of got to think, she's a powerhouse. You're not coming out of that unscathed. You're going to get beaten, battered, bruised, and you're going to be feeling every single slam that you get.
Oh yeah, I mean, it was very evident. I mean, Jax quickly took control of the match, and whenever Bailey seemed to get some kind of advantage going, she then got distracted by Roxanne Perez in the crowd, who hilariously managed to get herself kicked out of Raw, and managed to kick a member of the audience out of their seat, as she was sat with, I have to assume this wasn't just some random member of the public, otherwise I feel like we'd have heard a lot more about it.
There would have been a lawsuit incoming.
Oh, 100%. But I still found it funny, the fact that somebody managed to get kicked out of their chair. But so much so to the point that I made a massive note around it to signify that I had to at least mention that once.
I mean, there's a few bits that I pulled out. There was at one point Nia Jax headbutted Bailey in the tits in the midair. I thought that was quite well played. Bailey didn't look too happy when she landed on the floor. Like, ow, that wasn't supposed to happen. What are you doing?
Yeah, I can imagine something like that is going to hurt. To be fair,
I can imagine someone had some choice words after that match as well. Like, do you want to do that again? We're going to go for real. There won't be a script next time.
Yeah, this is it.
There was some interesting statistics flown around during this match as well, which I picked up on from the commentary team. That Nia Jax was the first woman to enter 2 Royal Rumbles in a night, which I thought was quite impressive. I know she did appear in the men's Rumble a few years ago, didn't she? She took was it an RKO from Randy Orton?
Yes, I think so. In one of the rare moments where WWE experimented with some men's and women's mixed wrestling. It doesn't happen very often, but they
do double.
They do.
Another statistic they mentioned was that Bailey won the Royal Rumble last year, and she holds the record for is it the longest Royal Rumble survival with 1 hour, 3 minutes and a second?
Yes, something along those lines, I believe. But while we're focusing on statistics, if I remember correctly, I didn't note this down, so it's possible I'm going to get this wrong. But
put it in the comments, let us
I do believe that Nia Jax holds a joint record with Rhea Ripley for the most amount of eliminations in the women's Rumble matches. Um, so I think that was mentioned by the commentary team at one point as well. But I'm actually quite impressed that you're taking note of statistics, Rich. It's unlike you. That's normally a me thing.
Well, you know
Um,
what? I got that into this week's episode, so I got to it a little bit later than you did, due to some IRL stuff going on. But my notes this week were actually quite intensive. I was having fun. I really enjoyed this episode of Raw, and you can normally tell when I've enjoyed an episode because my notes pop off. But when it's a little bit of a quieter Raw and I'm not having quite as much fun, my notes get quite brief.
yeah, this is it. But no, as I said, it's good to see you enjoying it. So, um, the other thing that I mentioned about, or that I noted down about this, other than the fact that Bailey looks to have aggravated quite an old injury in her shoulder, which Nia Jax does take advantage of, um, but Bailey does quite an impressive sunset flip into the corner ring post at one point during this match, and
It does.
I mean, to do a sunset again, it's that move. It's the move of the evening. It's the sunset flip, but sunset flip on the apron into the corner ring post on Nia Jax is quite an impressive thing to be able to do. There are not many superstars that can say that they've
And
managed to
then
do that to.
follow that up by using her, like Nia's own move against her with the Annihilator off the top rope into the corner as well was a little bit cheeky.
Yeah, I don't think that has quite the same impact when Bailey does it.
I'd rather receive it from Bailey than Nia Jax. I'm not going to, it might be
Oh,
easier
yeah.
to learn to take that move from Bailey than it would be from Nia.
I mean, yes. But yeah, I mean, I found this match to be like really compelling. It's something that I really struggle to take my eyes off of. Um,
The
which,
story was really well told here, and
yeah, 100%.
we did get to see a couple of high flying moves as well. I've made note here of Bailey pulling Nia off the top rope, where she kind of pancake flops onto the floor and then takes a running knee. And then
Yeah, I remember that bit.
I've got a Samoan drop from the top rope that gets countered into a sunset flip power bomb for a 2 count. Again, we're
Yeah,
bringing back the sunset flip, and it's definitely been the move of the night. And there was a quite tasty little elbow drop from the top rope as well for a 2 count. But yeah, Nia managed to take the win with a pop-up Samoan drop and a senton, followed by an Annihilator from the top rope for the 3 count. I mean, you're not kicking out if you've got Nia sat in your chest. Not unless you're
no.
sort of Brock Lesnar.
I think even Brock Lesnar. I think Brock Lesnar and Braun Strowman would struggle, if I'm completely honest with you, because again, she cuts an intimidating figure, does Nia Jax?
Does.
But yeah,
This
Nia
brought
Jax
my
picks up the win.
favorite part of the night. My favorite part of this episode wasn't even a match. It was this section. And I
So
loved it.
the section he's referring to, we had
Rhea
something.
Ripley.
We had something. We did. We had Rhea Ripley come out after this match, having been attacked by Nia Jax right before the show started. She came out and she was out for blood.
Oh, she wanted payback. She was not happy at all that Nia Jax put her hands on her at the start of the show. So she wanted to make sure that Nia Jax knew that don't happen to Mammy, and Mammy was going to make sure she knew it well.
Oh, 100%. And yeah, we've. I mean, realistically, two absolute titans of the women's division in Raw clashing like that, and is just
Yeah, phenomenal.
phenomenal. And I mean, we've got that all sort of culminating, at least, in a new match being set at Saturday night's main event. That is Nia Jax versus Rhea Bloody Ripley.
That was
And
agreed by Adam Pearce after Rhea stood on the announce table, grabbed the microphone, and just screamed it at Nia that they needed to fight. So it's going to happen. And
yeah, I think
I'm
that was
looking
either
forward
going
to
to
that.
be. I think that was either going to be a sanctioned match, or it was it was a sanctioned match, or it was going to end up being a parking lot brawl at the end of the day. Which, I mean, either one, as long as they get it on film, I'm happy to sit and watch. It's that is no
I'd like
skin
to
off
see
my
that
nose
match
whatsoever.
at Saturday Night Main Event be a no DQ if possible, but that stipulation's not been thrown in there yet, or any stipulation
No,
at the moment.
I don't think there is going to be a stipulation for it. If I'm completely honest, I think it
It's
is
a
just going to be.
WrestleMania quality match. They'd have to throw something in there to make it look good. But
I
it's
think
one of
this is
those.
the birth. I think this is the birth of a feud. We've got two, as I said, two absolute monsters of female superstars. Um,
And they both need something to do.
and yeah, I mean they are without anything going into the road to WrestleMania. I mean, they keep teasing that Nia Jax is going to go after Tiffany Stratton after cashing in her Money in the Bank against her, but that has yet to materialize. I've got a feeling that Nia Jax is going to end up competing for Mummy's title at WrestleMania. I think this is going to build into a bit of a program between the two, because it's not something we've seen thus far, at least to my memory. Is Rhea Ripley and Nia Jax going one on one
No, so that could
in the
potentially
past?
lead to a hint at Nia winning the Royal Rumble. But that's just obviously a guess at any point. You have no idea who's going to win the Rumble, but to set that one up for a WrestleMania match could, in theory, have Nia winning the Rumble or winning at Elimination Chamber.
We could. I mean, there's loads of ways into WrestleMania with and at the moment, Rhea Ripley is holding at least one of them. So
Yep.
we've we only time's going to be able to tell at this point as to how this is all going to play out. But I think we're going to have a lot of fun talking about this in the future. So we went from that absolute monster signing to a VT recap of the Priest versus Balor street fight from last week. Which,
Correct.
I mean, if you didn't see it, go and watch it, or even better, go
Listen to
back
us
and
talk about it
have a
in last
listen.
week's episode.
Yeah, we covered it quite extensively.
We are
We
now
then went
available
from
on most of your most popular podcast services and Spotify.
so wherever you go for your podcast needs, make sure you go and find us. Take us wherever you're going. We want to go too.
Give us a follow so let us
But
know where you're choosing to listen to us as well.
oh, definitely. Definitely. And wherever you choose to follow us on, make sure you turn those notifications on so you never miss an episode.
If you want to get in contact with us and talk to us about some of the stuff that we've spoken about, you can drop us an email. It's factionsandfinishes@gmail.com.
So, moving on, we've got a backstage promo next, which was the Judgment Day and Chad Gable. And this was something that Chad Gable alluded to earlier in the night, that he's going to Dominic Mysterio, of all people, to help him with his Lucha Libre problem. And yeah, look, Chad Gable is handed the note of somebody who's going to help, and he says something quite ominous on his way out of this promo, that he's going to something to the extent of he's going to go and tackle the dark magic problem of his inability to defeat lucha superstars, and it's been quite a bit of speculation around what that could mean. Maybe it's a hint at at who he's been given the name of. One name that's been mentioned is Alistair Black, otherwise known as Malachi Black, who is currently, I believe, still under contract for AEW, but I could be wrong because he could be making his way back to WWE for that one. But
There are a few
that is
names
just
that have been floated to be making the way to WWE at some point from AEW, but until I've seen a little bit more, I'm not going to jump in on those rumors.
no, which is I think is very smart at this stage because at the moment we don't have it. Well, I don't watch as much AEW content as I used to do, but I have seen on social media that AEW do seem to be facing some very real problems at the moment, um, which is quite concerning. But I'm not going to go too far into that one, just because I don't know an awful lot about it. But something else that happened within this promo, after Chad Gable buggers off, basically, we get uh, so it was originally slated that Balor and McDonough were going to be competing again for the tag team champions, but obviously after the street fight last week, Balor
Feeling a
is
little
in
bit worse for wear.
he is in absolutely no condition to be competing for anything, apart from his next breath, maybe.
Dirty Dom did offer to help out if needs be.
Which I think was actually taken up only because it would mean Carlito having to actually lace up his boots and wrestle a match, which I'm not sure he actually has in him anymore.
No, a lot of Carlito's appearances are definitely more of a manager than a in-ring
Definitely,
performer.
definitely.
Be
But
interesting to see how quickly he gets gassed in the Rumble, because he seems to be one of those superstars that always gets a Rumble moment.
yeah, it won't be a long moment. Let's put it that way, because I
It
just don't think
never
he's
is.
in shape. I don't think he's in any form of in-ring shape at the moment. But I've got a feeling that this is that, as much as it didn't necessarily seem like it, I've got an odd feeling that this is slating up to be more cracks in the Judgment Day. I think we are officially witnessing the downfall of Judgment Day in their current form, at the very least. With Finn Balor laid up after facing Priest in a brutal street fight last week. We've got Dom taking his place. JD McDonough didn't seem entirely convinced that Finn Balor would be okay with it, as Finn Balor is not Dom's biggest fan. He's not Liv's biggest fan recently either, but Liv really just doesn't seem to care.
No.
And I mean, even Liv is being quite passive aggressive at the moment. In that, again, in that way that I think most men will encounter at some point in their life, is that it'll be, oh, you'll have your other half telling you, yeah, everything's fine, but it just isn't.
Yeah, of course. So we went from dealing with the New Day to getting a bit of a recap, I suppose, from Lyra Valkyra about the Women's Intercontinental Championship and kind of where she's going to go as champion, and it looks like she wants to try and build a legacy with that as a fighting champion. So, be interesting to see when we get to see her defend that for the first time.
And who that will be defended against, realistically, because there is.
No pecking order for that title yet, so I'm hoping there's going to be a number one contender match between sort of two other superstars for that title, and then we'll see that title defended in maybe a couple of weeks' time.
Maybe, but we'll leave that for just the moment, because we next thing we got what I found to begin with, at least, to be quite an odd little VT. That
The Martin Luther King
WWE,
Jr. one.
yeah, it didn't make any sense to me to begin with, because I had to look up if it was like, is this like a Martin Luther King Day sort of thing? But it's don't think it was Martin Luther King Day.
I was building more on the fact that I think because February is Black History Month, and obviously WWE have a lot of very talented black superstars that work in sort of different communities, that it was building towards advertising that. That's how I looked at it.
Yeah, that was what I took from it as well, in fairness. It was a bit confusing to me to begin with, but that was sort of the conclusion that I drew as well. It was very much showcasing how inclusive of the black community WWE has and always will be, with just the pure plethora of talent that is black, essentially. Yeah, I mean, really nice little bit of a history lesson for anybody that didn't know a massive amount of Martin Luther King. But this fed into match 3 of the evening, which was the men's singles match between Pete Dunne and Penta. Which, do you know what? It's not as explosive as Penta's first match, as far as the action that Penta was actually involved in.
No. Once we'd had Pete Dunne's entrance, before we even got to see Penta, we had Seth Rollins backstage talking to Sami Zayn for a few moments, basically just appreciating what Seth said to him last week, and Seth kind of going, yeah, you know, I've got a bit of respect for you. I'm almost kind of rooting for you, but you know, if we meet in the Rumble, you're going over that top rope. Sami's response is very much like, I'll get you first. And then it was
it's a bit of healthy, friendly respect.
Kind of, he had a little bit of a talk about respect, and the one thing I found brilliant about this, that was pointed out by Wade Barrett a little bit later on, actually, was that while he was busy talking about respect, the production team turned his microphone off.
Well, they didn't just turn his microphone off. They decided to go to an advert break, which was I don't know if that was actually meant to happen. I'm convinced that was a botch, which I know I said at towards the beginning is a word that I avoid, but this isn't it's not a wrestling botch. This is a production botch, and
someone got
it wouldn't
fired.
Oh, somebody's going to get their ass kicked.
Not by Mark Henry.
No, definitely not. I mean, I think that whoever it is would probably prefer getting their ass kicked by Mark Henry, to be quite honest. But yeah, I mean, I got a bit of a soft spot for Pete Dunne as it goes. I mean, he's a fellow Brummie. I can't be mad at that.
You can't.
And you know what? In this match, I think we saw a lot of Pete Dunne, which again, I find anybody that I would challenge any true wrestling fan not to be impressed by Pete Dunne's performance against Penta. We know how good Penta is. We saw him against Chad Gable, and if you've viewed any of the matches that he's done outside of WWE, you'll know how good of a superstar he actually is.
I mean, Pete Dunne is a former NXT Tag Champion. He's a former NXT UK Champion. You know, he's held plenty of gold himself, and he's probably one of the top younger British superstars to still be kicking around.
Yeah, and there were a few spots in this match that I really picked up on. One of the big ones that I don't think anybody could have ignored was the fact that at one stage Pete Dunne tied Penta's mask to the second rope. It lasted about
Ridiculous.
3 seconds because apparently Pete Dunne doesn't know how to tie a knot, but that's beside the point. I mean, what a way to disable a high flying superstar, but especially a lucha libre style superstar by tying his mask to the ropes. What a genius move that was.
Brilliant. I thought you were talking about a different spot then, I'm not going to lie. Um,
Why? Which one did you think?
how well did Pete Dunne sell that Mexican destroyer? Like,
See, I was coming to that. That Mexican destroyer came out of nowhere, and the sell on it was
it was
chef
perfect. Like,
kiss.
he sold that so well. It was unbelievable.
Yeah,
Oh,
and we got treated to a Penta driver as well. I mean, Pete Dunne was in control for a lot of this match, but Penta's comeback was hard. It was fast, and
it
everything
shows experience, I
we've come to
suppose.
expect.
But I will say, even with Penta taking the victory in this match, Pete Dunne did himself a lot of favours. The way he wrestled that match, it was definitely like there should be a push coming for him with the quality of wrestling in that match. Um, he, I don't think the loss would have hurt him. I think just being set up like you know a match with Penta on your card wasn't the first one they've had. They did meet in 2017 in a one-on-one match, but yeah, that did a lot for Pete Dunne as well as a lot for Penta.
I think coupled together with the production botch that we mentioned earlier on about um, Pete Dunne's promo being cut short, it I think they've inadvertently going to have set him up fantastically for a bit of a run. I'm not sure who that run's going to be with or against, but it will be interesting to see if they play that out properly. Um, but again, keeping things moving forward, the next thing we had was a VT package for Logan Paul, which is actually somebody I've been looking forward to, but not always for the best reasons. On this podcast, we've spoken at length before, off recording about Logan Paul and how he's sort of he's got the golden ticket as far as WWE goes. He's not done any of the work that any other
He has
superstar will have
written
done to get
someone
to
a
that
big
point.
fat check to get where he is. Right,
100%.
a big
It's
fat check, and he has bought everything he has got. If they ever put that guy in the Hall of Fame, they will completely kill what that Hall of Fame is made like is. It, no,
yeah,
that guy
disrespect the
is a
memory of
yeah. That guy is
every
a
last.
disrespect to the sports entertainment world.
Yeah, it's not the and the body of work he's produced. Don't get me wrong, he is a hard worker and he puts on a very entertaining match. It's not there's no the issue that I take with it, and I'm surprised that more superstars have not spoken out about, or more professional wrestlers in general. And if you are a professional wrestler listening to this podcast, I would love to hear your thoughts on Logan Paul in the comments on our social. Just get in touch. I'd love to hear it because Logan Paul to me is not done. He's not paid his dues. He's had a US title reign, which don't get me wrong. Again, he put together the body of work to get there, but he's not done the indie shows. He's not travelled the road. He's not learnt the hard lessons. And I don't know, to every single superstar that hasn't had anywhere close to the push that he has had, and that they've chosen him over everybody. Yeah, it just rubs me up all the way the wrong way. But that VT package was basically saying that Logan Paul is a Raw roster superstar, full-time Raw roster superstar, and he debuts on Raw next week.
I mean, if that gives you a reason not to watch it, but to listen to us for the highlights instead, then I think that's a bonus.
Oh, 100%.
Um,
Um,
so yeah, next
we'll
week's
we'll
Raw's-
swallow that bitter pill so you don't have to.
Next week's Raw is in Atlanta. So you've got Logan Paul's debut. War Raiders are going up against Judgment Day for the Tag Championships. And the Saturday night main event, Cody Rhodes ladder match with Kevin Owens are having their contract signed live on Raw with the Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels.
So that's actually
So
not
Saturday
quite
night main
correct.
event.
I was going to say, yeah, it's taking place at Saturday night main event. There is a contract signing being moderated by the Heartbreak Kid. So we know that's going to go 7 ways from Sunday.
Yeah, someone's eating a sweet chin music, and I'm really, really hoping it's Kevin Owens.
Yeah, this is it. But yeah, we went to a rather unconventional arena side interview with the Second City Saint CM Punk, as he, unlike any other superstar that's ever done any sort of a promo of this kind, let alone arena side, he got his entrance music. He got an entrance to go with it because he walked in from the arena. He entranced from the arena lobby. And just went out there and did what CM Punk does best: ran his freaking mouth. And there's a lot of people theorizing that he may have dropped a small spoiler for a quote unquote surprise entrant on for the Rumble with a comment he made about one Hulk Hogan potentially needing his dusty ass thrown over the top rope.
Yeah, I must admit I made note about that specific line. Yeah, so he kind of basically just says that CM Punk comes alive under pressure and no one can beat him when he's at his best. And he's not seen John Cena around. Roman Reigns needed Punk's help at War Games, and there's no friends in the Royal Rumble. Yeah, the fact that he tossed Hulk Hogan over the rope and kill Hulkamania again, it was, brilliant.
I think the Hulkster managed to kill Hulkamania a long time ago.
If he shows up in the Rumble, it'll be a disappointment. I think WWE don't need Hulkamania or the Hulkster anymore. I think he needs them more.
Oh, 100%. But we went from that CM Punk classic pipe bomb interview into another interview, but this one took place backstage with the War Raiders themselves. Now, somebody made a reference earlier in the show to the fact that the War Raiders have been plagued by injury recently, and they sort of acknowledge this right from the get-go in this little
I think it's your standard. I've been told I've got a career-threatening injury. Each match we do is going to be the best we do because it's we got injured and it could be our last match, and we've seen it so many times with Edge, with Christian. As we said earlier in the episode, like getting a little bit bored of the whole "woe it's me, I got hurt" thing.
Yeah, this is it. But yeah, War Raiders don't seem particularly concerned about their match with the Judgment Day. I don't think they've got a massive amount to worry about, if I'm completely honest. But
the worst they've got to worry about is Dirty Dom, then just kick him in the plums and he'll be done.
See, this is the thing: is that are they playing on the injury angle as a way for the War Raiders to legitimately drop the titles to Judgment Day and feed into a Dirty Dom Finn Balor feud when Finn Balor is fit enough to return? This is these are the sort of the inner machinations
of the Judgment Day.
Yeah,
I mean,
this is what I mean when I say it's all playing a part into the down. I think we are witnessing the dissolution of of the Judgment Day. It's happening before our eyes, and some people may not even realise it yet.
Well, many a faction have been taken apart in faster ways. This just seems to be killing Judgment Day slowly. And I'm not sure, apart from a couple of the stronger wrestlers, who's really going to benefit most from it.
I think we'll soon see with that one. But as I say, it's just a theory at the moment. It's a theory I believe pretty strongly in, but a theory nonetheless. We went from here into match 4 of the evening, which was a women's tag match, which was
Collective, which is Zoe
yeah, we
Stark.
had Zoe Stark and Shayna Baszler, accompanied by Sonya Deville, versus the remaining members of
Kai,
Damage Control.
Io Sky. Yeah, Damage Control. I didn't
So
get a lot from this match. A lot of notes. I'm not going to lie, there were a few that I picked up on.
So normally my notes consist of just a couple of maybe 3, 4 word sentences just to sort of jog my memory as to what it is that I'm referring to at the time. This one actually had me writing full freaking sentences for me to know exactly what was going on. So, I mean, to give a bit of backstory, there is a bit of a feud going on between Damage Control and PFC at the moment on the back of PFC subjected Kairi Sane to an attack last month during the Intercontinental Tournament, which saw Kairi Sane being out of action and has yet to return. But yeah, so there is a bit of bad blood between PFC and Shane and Damage Control at the moment. And do you know what? The thing that really took me out of it for this, and I don't know if it's been a very long time since the last time I saw Shayna Baszler actually get in the ring and do anything, but she took a very relaxed stance to this match. It felt almost lazy to a point
She didn't feel like she wanted
to
to be.
me.
The only couple of highlights I got from this was Zoe Stark hit one hell of a missile drop kick.
Do you know that was the next note I was coming to? That missile drop kick to Zoe Stark's chest was phenomenal.
Yeah, so it was. I've even got brackets on that one. Holy fucking shit! It was such a good drop kick. Unfortunately, I struggled. Apart from Shayna Baszler, I really didn't recognise or remember too much about the rest of the guys in the match. It said Shayna Baszler looked quite lazy. Dakota Kai looked like she was nursing something. She didn't seem as fluid as we've seen her in previous weeks. But for me, Io Sky and Zoe Stark weren't really part of the match. And Io Sky was the one who spent the most time in the ring, if you kind of get what I was saying.
So I think you may have actually gotten the mixed up somewhere there, because Dakota Kai, yeah, she was nursing an injury because Zoe Stark and Shayna Baszler managed to isolate her quite early on in the match. They kept Io Sky didn't play a lot of, or didn't spend a lot of time in this match, just because of how Zoe Stark and Baszler managed to cut the ring in half, keep Kairi Sane, Dakota Kai, sorry, very much over onto their side of the ring so that they could enact as much punishment as possible. It was only on a hot tag to Sky where Sky managed to drag a huge amount of momentum back. And I mean, Io Sky is a former women's world title holder, so we knew we were going to get some hard hitting moves from her. And I mean, she's Queen of the Sky. She was going to go high risk at any opportunity she got. The only other note that I got,
She finished it off with the moonsault, didn't she?
yeah. So the other note that I got was, I always like to at least give anybody else involved in this match a bit of an honourable mention. We had Sonya Deville on the outside, not a wrestler I particularly rate. She's a fantastic heel, and spent some time playing a WWE executive at one point, but she was providing some distractions from the outside, which sort of turned the tide once more. But ultimately, Io Sky picks up a pinfall over Baszler, which was actually quite a shock to me. I didn't think they'd do Baszler like that just because of how they've utilised her in the past. But again, she's not really getting much airtime at the moment because I think it mostly comes from her lack of ability to cut a promo.
Hmm.
She's a powerhouse.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah.
That led from what was probably the lowest quality match on the card for me this week. Um, yeah, no, that led from that into another VT promo for Saturday Night Main Event in San Antonio, Texas, which airs on Peacock and NBC in the US and YouTube for everyone else. And then went
Yeah, so
through the list of some pretty incredible things going off at Saturday Night Main Event.
so there's a pretty stacked card for that event, and we will be. I believe the plan is to do an episode around Saturday night main event. It may take us a little while to get that out, just because of different things that myself and Rich have going on over the weekend. But we will crank We will crank that episode out as much as humanly possible.
Crank one out over the weekend, that's up to you. I've got work.
Wow, I didn't think you'd actually go there. Right. Anyway, moving swiftly on. I think that Saturday night main event preview was then led into a VT recap of Seth Rollins versus Drew McIntyre, spanning all the way from WrestleMania last year, which actually, interestingly enough, I've seen quite a few memes involving Drew McIntyre recently, and the recent TikTok ban in the US. I think I might have actually sent one to you, Rich. I can't remember if I did or not, but it's basically the TikTok ban didn't lasted longer than Drew McIntyre's reign at that particular WrestleMania. As at that same WrestleMania, Damian Priest cashed in his money in the bank against Drew, picked up the title off him, which has sort of sent Drew off the deep end, as we've seen over recent months. And yeah, it's all sort of come to a head this evening, where the main event was a men's singles match between Seth freaking Rollins and Drew McIntyre, and
Basically, just a
my God,
WrestleMania match.
it was a WrestleMania recap, but what a WrestleMania recap match it was. I mean, to the best of my knowledge, this was my match of the evening. The main event definitely saved the best till last for this one.
No,
But
definitely.
you talked about a long entrance sequence for Jey Uso at the beginning. I think that paled in comparison for the amount of the length of the entrance they had for Seth Rollins in this one. They took 2 ad breaks during Seth Rollins's entrance on this match. It was absolutely insane.
I mean, that tells you one of two things. One, it's incredibly long. Two, not many people want to watch Seth Rollins' entrance anymore.
You say that, but he still gets one hell of a crowd interaction. The crowd is still singing his theme tune back to him to a certain extent. He's still very much over with the crowd. He's not done with this gimmick just yet.
But then Drew's very good with that heel role, so he's automatically going to have more people hating him. So it kind of works out quite well, to be fair. Easy heat for Seth Rollins.
Oh, 100%. But match starts with the pair of them basically. It starts with a war of words before we get into any sort of physical action. But
Well, that continues throughout the entire match, though. I made a note that they were trash talking each other the whole way through.
which is something that we see quite a lot in not just Drew McIntyre's matches, but Kevin Owens. This is, again, still fueling a bit of a theory that I've got that Kevin Owens and Drew McIntyre will end up teaming up at one point, and I've got a feeling we're going to see it at WrestleMania. I'm not sure what that's going to culminate in, but I think that's where these intricate threads are weaving their way toward. But Drew seemed very much in control in this match. I mean, it was kept to a very physical match, which benefits Drew. It's
And Seth's a
but
workhorse as well. He will give you everything he's got in every match type he's in.
Oh, 100%. I mean, there was one particular sequence I took real notice of, which was um, the big superplex that Rollins managed to pull off on McIntyre. Um, Went for a float through for a broken arrow, but got converted into a Michinoku driver.
Oh, yeah,
I
I
had to
remember that.
rewatch that sequence. I had to rewatch that sequence 3 or 4 times to try and catch the name for the driver. The commentators used that, but that entire sequence ended up with a near fall at a 2 count, which yeah, I was
Oh,
not
a
it
lot of near
genuinely took my
falls
breath away.
and a lot of 2 counts on some pretty impressive moves throughout this entire main
Yeah,
event.
there were some phenomenal sequences towards the end of this match as well, where they're just sort of because they know each other's move sets so well. There was counter into counter into counter, and yeah, just some fantastic technical wrestling between the two of them.
And it linked so well. I didn't take many notes purely for the fact that I spent a lot of time glued to this one. I really enjoyed
So
watching um, Seth Rollins using the Hurricane Rana, to be fair. Um,
yeah,
the Falcon Arrow seems to be a move that a few superstars are kind of using variants of at the moment, which is an interesting one. The Penta Drive is very similar to the Falcon Arrow.
it is, but something that only really Penta can get away with doing at the moment. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm sure the others are more than capable, but Penta just seems to be able to pull it off with some flair. Um, but yeah, this match culminated in Rollins. I put it down as stealing a win with the jackknife
Yeah.
pinfall, and Drew did not take this loss well at all.
No, we did not. And
This
with
seemed
that,
to send Drew off into a next level off the deep end, in my opinion.
yeah, him and Kevin Owens are swimming in the same deep end of the same swimming pool at this point. Like your
Oh,
theory lines up
100%.
perfectly. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, no, Drew goes off the deep end, and then that leads us into getting a reintroduction to Sami Zayn. Um,
so Sami Zayn, as true to what Seth Rollins has said about him, came out to try and help Seth Rollins. If
Seth
anything,
needed
he'd have
it.
done himself he'd have done himself a favor had he actually heeded Seth's words and said and just stayed in the back. Let Drew do what Drew was going to do, and just sort of kept his nose out. But that's just not who Sami Zayn is. Sami Zayn is the friend you want in your corner.
Unless
He's
you're
just not the
sat in
one.
the corner and he pops you with a haluva kick instead of the guy he's looking at.
Yes, this was what I was literally about to make a similar reference to this. The match end
Move a
the
fuck up on the
show
haluva kick.
the show ends with a misdirected haluva kick to that was supposed to be for Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre was agile enough to just duck out of the way, and Seth Rollins caught all all the feet into the face,
Like I said,
and
that was
we
a
were left
haluva fuck
with
up
a
with the haluva kick. It was,
yes, 100%. We were left with Seth Rollins shooting some major evils towards Sami Zayn by the end of this match, and I think we are possibly heading towards some kind of match between the two of them to sort that shit out, and possibly next week's Raw, I would imagine. But yeah, I mean, I've already stated my match of the night, Rich. I think we've come to the
oh,
end of Raw at the very least. Any final thoughts?
no, I loved it. It was a great episode. There's lots of things that are set up. I'm looking forward to. It's definitely built hype with me for Saturday night main event. Um, I'm hoping the rest of the
Definitely.
programming this week goes the same way. So yeah, I think that's us done.
I think it is. Thank you, guys. Thank you, one and all, for tuning in to this week's Raw edition of Finishers and Factions. Obviously, please let any of your friends, family, strangers on the street that you know are true fans of professional wrestling know about our podcast. The only way this is going to grow and get bigger and better is if you recommend us to friends, family, and anybody else you know who is a fan of professional wrestling. But this is it. We're going to call it, and we'll call it a day for today. And yeah, I mean, I've been Adam.
With NXT's episode, and I'm Rich. Peace.
Yeah.